This is the SEC Insider Hit, brought to you by Capital Preservation Services, the tax planning team that helps business owners earn more and keep more.
5, 3, 2, 1.
You going techno this morning or whatever this
It's
is
time
called?
to go.
Okay. It's like you're a DJ. DJ Blake Mania. That doesn't sound right. I'll have to think that through. DJ Blakey Blakester. I'll figure it out. Just give me a day or two. I'll work it out. The Out of Bounds Show is brought to you by Madison Ridgeland Academy, MRA football. Not tomorrow night, but next Friday, playoffs, home game. They'll play the winner of whoever's playing tomorrow night. MRA football on ESPN 105.9 The Zone. And the show is also brought to you by Mississippi Ag and your next John Deere tractor at Mississippi Ag. The show is also brought to you by Eye Care Professionals and Dr. Kirk Jeffries and his team on Lakeland Drive, blade-free LASIK and cataract surgery. Eye Care Professionals. Dr. Kirk Jeffries. We're live in the Bank Plus studio. Welcome in, welcome in. And I want to give a shout-out to Independent Roofing. The best, the number one commercial roofing company in Mississippi, the Beau Rivage, Nissan, Golden Moon Casino, the number one commercial roofing company in Mississippi, and that's Independent Roofing, roofing.ms. So we're going to have John Cohen on in about 4 minutes, and I want to discuss this first. John Cohen is not a stranger to rebuilds. I can say this, he's not, and that's not where I'm going to go with him on this interview. But John Cohen walked into Kentucky, and they were the worst team in the league in baseball, and he rebuilt them. I'm looking at his record right here. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. It's 100%. He walked into Kentucky. They were the worst baseball team in the league, and he rebuilt their baseball program and took them to places they had never been. He walked into Mississippi State. This gets a little slippery, right, because he replaced his former coach. And, again, John's never going to say this, which is fine. And I like Ron Polk. But when John walked in, it was the worst baseball program in the Southeastern Conference. He rebuilt that program. So now John, for whatever reason, John has to take the brunt of this. He is now in the process of trying to modernize Mississippi State's offense. He tried to do it with Joe Moorhead. People said it was an excellent hire at the time. He has hired Mike Leach. If you've listened to this show, you know I think it'll work. It's going to look ugly for a while. Thought Matt Wyatt, really walked us through that whole thing. But it looks to me like, and while maybe somewhat putting his job on the line, Cohen is determined to, and this is his alma mater. He was a starting outfielder on a College World Series team at Mississippi State, as most of you remember. And he was on two really good teams in 89 and 90. John is, it looks like, focused and determined to make this transition to where they can throw the football with a lot of success on a regular basis. Now, you could stay with the Garrett Schrader, Colin Hill offense this year, move the ball better. You're not going to score much more. You're not going to beat anybody else, but it may look a little bit better. You could stay with the Dan Mullen power spread, and it's a lot easier to go find a guy who's a dual threat and just literally put all the pressure on your quarterback and running backs to kind of go 4 to 6 yards when you're really ginning down the field. You have to do a bunch of plays.
12-play drives.
Yeah, 13 to 15. Yeah, 12-play drives. Not like Ole Miss, Bama, what Arkansas will be. Florida can score in 5 plays. Ole Miss can score in 4 plays. Bama can score in 2 to 3 plays, type deal. LSU last year. What he's trying to do, and you don't have the personnel. It's a hodgepodge of it's just a hodgepodge of weirdness as far as the personnel. So he believes, and I think he's going to say this, that Leach will have the opportunity to bring in better skill players and that fit the system and move the football. So a lot of State fans already want to go back to what is a much easier kind of mask your deficiencies and weaknesses. More of a 2013 Dak, not 14 and 15, 2013, 2017 with Dak, 2017 with Fitz offense that is ground and pound. I mean, it's just excruciating getting the ball down the field against any kind of competition type deal. And I just don't think that's Well, I mean, that's not what's going to happen as far as with Mike Leach. So that's where we are, and that's what we're going to discuss this morning. The Out of Bounds Show on ESPN 105.9 The Zone is brought to you by Ace Bolt and Screw, powered by DeWalt Tools. 4 locations, downtown Jackson, new in Gluckstadt in Madison, and then Tupelo in Atlanta. All right, acebolt.net, the leading fastener distributor in the Southeast. Ace Bolt and Screw, powered by DeWalt Tools. We're streaming live on the Out of Bounds radio app, and you can watch the show on YouTube. Search Out of Bounds Sports. We want to welcome in the Mississippi State Athletic Director. He is John Cohen on the Coors Light guest line. John, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing great. Bo, how you doing this morning?
We're doing well. So it's a rough season on the football field, year one for Mike Leach. He's trying to install his offense, and it's going to take some time, obviously, through recruiting and reps and experience and so on. The defense looks good, but I do want to start with the offense. Now, walk me through your mindset the last few years. It looks to me like you're determined as the athletic director that you are making not just a concerted effort, but all-out focus to take this program and somewhat modernize it on the offensive side of the football, where they can establish a passing game that is productive and efficient most Saturdays. Is that where you're trying to go with this football program?
Yeah, I think if you look at around the country right now, and you look, and again, I'm not trying to compare our program to Alabama or LSU or anybody else, but the teams around our league and around the country have really adopted to a style of stretching the field. If you really can't run the football unless you have the threat of stretching the field. We've seen that over and over again. Bo, and I'm not being critical because I think we've had some wonderful wide receivers come through Mississippi State, and probably some of them who deserved to be drafted, but we haven't had a drafted wide receiver at Mississippi State in 23 years.
Unbelievable.
And I'm not saying that to be critical. I'm just saying that as a fact. If you look at the 23-year history, there's not another SEC school that can say that. I really feel like there's going to be a high level of skilled players who are going to want to play in Mike Leach's offense. And again, I think in some ways our wide receiving core, the tight ends that we had coming into this season, everybody's had to adjust. If you look at our offensive line, you look at the amount of SEC starts that any of them had coming in, not that many starts. So if you look at the history of what Mike has done in his career, and I know that there are people out there who say, well, that wasn't within the structure of the SEC. Okay, but it was within the structure of Oklahoma, Texas Tech, Washington State. These are Power 5 institutions. And, of course, what he did way back when at Kentucky as well, there's no doubt in my mind it can work. We're going to have, some adjustments made within the program, and Mike is making those adjustments. People ask me, hey, do you think this is going to work? And I say, well, it's worked everywhere else Mike Leach has been. And I have a great deal of confidence in him. He has a great deal of confidence in himself and the staff. There's not much this guy hasn't seen. So even though I know everybody is frustrated because everybody wants to win, and quite frankly, we're in an environment right now where there's a great deal of frustration even outside the sports world everywhere.
Sure.
Because of the world that we have lived in, and that's understandable. But I think Mike has the ability to put some things in place that we've never had at Mississippi State University. And I'm excited about what he brings to it. The kids can see it. When you go to practice, you can look in the eyes of the kids, and they know we're doing all the right things. Coach Leach and his staff are doing all the right things. Very positive, but a lot of discipline, which is crucial to future success as well.
John Cohen, MSU AD on the Out of Bounds Show, discussing the Mississippi State football program and modernizing it on the offensive side of the football. He joins us on the Coors Light guest line. You're listening to 105.9 The Zone. MSU, his program will host Vanderbilt on Saturday at 2:30. So, John, you're more than experienced in rebuilds. And that's rare. Not all ADs have gone through what you have experienced. You rebuilt Kentucky and you rebuilt Mississippi State baseball. So in a way, you've been where Mike Leach is. You agree?
Yeah, I have. Listen, I've taken over 2 SEC programs in the sport of baseball, and it's different. But, both those programs were 22 and 34 the year before I got there. And, those things don't happen overnight. They happen for a reason. I always say this, too, and I truly believe it because I am somebody, and I learned this from Pat McMahon and Ron Polk. You always try and leave it better than the way you found it. There's no doubt in my mind that is what's going to happen with Mike Leach. He's going to leave this place much better than the way he found it. And that's not a criticism of anything that happened before.
Sure.
But he does have that track record, and we share a lot of similar values in the way you turn something around. You've got to get the student athlete's attention. There has to be discipline. There has to be a work ethic and practice every single day. There has to be an enthusiasm, even when things might not be going the way that everybody wants them to go. And I've seen all that. The strength and conditioning part of it is crucial. What an incredible staff he's established with strength and conditioning here. So you can see it. I mean, it's on the way. There's big bumps in the road on the way, and I know nobody wants to experience that. But listen, Mike Leach is going to have good offense here at Mississippi State. And again, what an incredible job our defense has done just keeping us in ball games, so far this year.
John Cohen on the Out of Bounds show. What was it like? Can you explain to us, walk us through what it was like in year 3, 2011, Mississippi State? You've gone through 2 rough seasons. You're trying to get some young guys up and going. Chris Stratton, among others. And even 2011 was a struggle, and then it turned. And then you took the Florida Gators to the 7th inning of Game 3, 8th inning, of a super regional where I think they had 13 guys drafted that week in the Major League Baseball draft. So that year when maybe the players still weren't sure, but you and Butch Thompson and others knew that it was going to turn, what was that like?
Well, again, when you explain, you have to preface it by saying, I don't think this is necessary. This is not anybody's fault. But in the sport of baseball, different than other sports, the early commitment situation is so prevalent over the last 15, 20 years. So, you get to Mississippi State, coach announced that he was going to retire pretty early on in the process. We really didn't have any commitments, and we were starting from scratch. Just to give you an example, in 2016, when I was fortunate enough to become the athletic director here at Mississippi State, and I walked away from baseball, at that time, I believe we had 31 commitments sitting in the cupboard waiting for the next coach to take over a 5-year recruiting class span. When I took over Mississippi State, the number was 0. I mean, we did not have a commitment when we took over here. And again, football is a little different than that because there isn't the early commitment thing hasn't taken over the sport the way it has in other sports. You look at baseball, softball, golf, the things like that. I mean, these kids are just committing really early, and there's a reason for that as well. Some of it good, some of it bad, but it's a real challenge, and you have to just absolutely just keep crawling through the glass every single day to make sure that your kids want to compete the same way you do. And there's an old saying about recruiting. You recruit who you want, Bo, but inevitably you get who you are. And those are the kids who end up showing up on your campus because they get the toughness. They want to be challenged. Those are the kids that I think Mike Leach is going to get. And, of course, from 2011 on, as we really dug in the recruiting process, we started to get the kids that represented who we really are here at Mississippi State.
John Cohen on the Out of Bounds show discussing MSU football and the athletic program. He joins us on the Coors Light guest line. You're listening to 105.9 The Zone. We're streaming live on the Out of Bounds radio app. I think that this could take some time. It could bleed well into next year and really not look like you and Leach want it to look until year 3. Are you willing? I think you got to be, but are you? Is that timeline okay with you, and are you willing to be that patient?
Yeah, the thing is, again, you got to look at the entire chessboard, and the entire chessboard involves watching the development of the kids, both on and off the field. It involves the development of the kids in terms of understanding the system, and quite frankly, you got to give kids experience. And if you look on the offensive side of the football, especially, and you say how many people we're playing right now have ever played in an SEC football game prior to this year, there's not a lot of them. Or gotten a start in SEC play prior to this year. So, I really believe in what we're doing. Listen, you don't know. We don't know what it's out in the future. A year ago, you and I would have never been talking about a pandemic that was going to come into our country or affect the SEC or college athletics the way it has. Don't know about injury situations. It's so hard to predict. And in order to really turn something in the direction you want it to go, you've got to have a little bit of good fortune to go along with all the hard work as well. I've experienced some of that in my career as well. So I really think we're on a good trajectory. It's just that, the whole world can't see the trajectory that you're on because they're not in practice every day.
Did you, a few years ago when you hired Moorhead, did you ever consider Leach? I mean, was he on your radar? I know you had a bunch of people on your radar for both hires.
Yeah, absolutely. There's really nobody we didn't consider. The entire landscape of available football coaches, we've absolutely considered that. Mississippi State deserves all that consideration. But again, Mississippi State is a fit place. You and I have had that discussion before. And maybe every program in the SEC is a fit for that specific type of program. So I do believe Mike is a great fit. But again, what he has done in his career to me speaks for itself. We've all had the conversations about what he has done in places that are, quite frankly, very difficult to not only attract really good players, but to create, championship level football teams.
Yeah. John Cohen on the Out of Bounds show, ESPN 105.9 The Zone. Now, the 2:30 kickoff. Am I missing? Isn't that usually a 3 o'clock or an 11 a.m. kickoff, or what?
Yeah, we at the request of the SEC Network, they asked us. They had a scheduling challenge, and they asked us in Vanderbilt to move up 30 minutes. So we gladly gave them that opportunity, and we're able to do that simply because even though this is homecoming, we were able to do it specifically because you can't have any on-field activities no matter what because of COVID. So
right.
It was a pretty seamless transition for us.
Okay. That makes sense. All right. Out of Bounds, ESPN 105.9 The Zone. John Cohen on the Coors Light guest line. Blake, you have a question for John.
Yeah. John, I guess the big question is, Mississippi State fans have been used to the winning and the bowl game streak and what Dan Mullen brought to the table. And obviously making such a transition is hard, but is there anything that you say to, when you have to work for something this hard, it's going to take a lot to get to it, but once you get to it, there is, I guess, a reward at the end of the road, or is
Oh, of course. Yeah, there's absolutely a reward at the end of the road. And again, we just played Alabama, and I look out on that field and I say, okay, how did that happen for Alabama? Well, the players that are on the field all are a result of evaluation, recruiting, and everything that happened between 3, 4, 5 years ago. That's what they had on the field. It's a 5-6 year process. That's what it really takes to get it going at the highest level. And we're not the offensive team we want to be at this point in time. I think that's obvious, but boy, you can see glimpses from an all freshman backfield at this point in time, including a quarterback who was playing high school football a year ago, two running backs who were playing high school football a year ago. And they're playing against the big boys in the SEC, and we're playing against kids who have a ton more experience. I'm not blaming anybody. It's just the reality. But I know it's going to get better. The plan's too good. And, I'll tell you how good his plan is. His plan has been copied from NFL coaches all the way down to college and high school coaches around the country who reach out to him, for advice all the time. So I feel like we're on a very nice trajectory. It's just hard to see because we're not scoring the kind of points that people assumed we were going to score.
Yeah, especially after the first game. That's the whole deal is for fans. Once that's stamped in your mind and memory, it's virtually impossible to delete that or shake that. So that was
and I'll tell you something else, Bo, not to interrupt, but you just brought up Coach Mullen and other coaches. It's really hard to evaluate because none of the previous coaches we've had haven't had 4 non-conference games.
Right.
None of the coaches we could mention in our history didn't have a spring or a summer in their first year of coaching when they took over a program. So, and I know that's representative of 4 different schools in our league, but man, you play the kind of people we're playing right now with very little SEC experience, and the fact that there's no spring, no summer, that's a difficult challenge. And I appreciate the way Mike and his staff took that challenge head on, and that's why I know it's gonna get dramatically better over time.
John Cohen on the Out of Bounds Show. John, we appreciate your time this morning. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you both. Y'all have a great day.
John Cohen, MSU AD on the Coors Light guest line. The show is brought to you by Drago's Seafood Restaurant and Oyster Bar. Delicious gumbo, fried catfish, and you know that they're well known for their charbroiled oysters. So John Cohen is more than experienced, and he rebuilt Kentucky. Well, he had to build that from the ground up at Kentucky, so he's been there. And when he walked into Kentucky, they had they were in last as far as talent. Last place, Blake. And then when he walked into Mississippi State, and he's not going to say this, but I can, they had the worst talent in the SEC, and he had to rebuild that baseball program. And so he knows what Leach is going through. I don't think anything he said makes it any better for the MSU fan base, but it is what it is, trying to modernize your football program. And it just hasn't been done. Again, Dan Mullen did a super job
He modernized it from where it was, but
that was phase 1.
It takes steps, exactly.
Hey, I want to let you know that we are throwing and hosting our big charity party next Thursday, November 12th. The Reed House at Live Oaks. Kyle Morrison and the group have built a beautiful, beautiful venue. It's November 12th. The Masters will be on. We'll have a par 3 competition, putting competition, cornhole competition. Incredible Tito's bar, along with Miller Coors and Four Roses Bourbon. Amazing food from Broad Street Catering, the Bravo Sal and Mookie's. Benefiting Extra Table. Hunger is an issue in Mississippi affecting over 125,000 kids. We want you there. Go to bowbounds.com. Get your tickets today. If you would, please retweet, share, and like our post. We need your help. Our big charity party's November 12th, next Thursday.